Hey guys, it's Megan from Running Toward the Prize. There, change that a little bit. And I've had a lot of reader questions, which is exciting for me that, first of all, I have all these readers, and second of all, that you actually are asking me questions and I can give some advice. And again, it's just advice, it's just from my experience, but I wanted to address some of the questions that you have. One of the first ones is thoughts on racing during training. I have a friend who is training for her first half marathon. It's going to be in Disneyland. And she was asking about running 5Ks in preparation for her half marathon training. And I think it's a great idea. First of all, a 5K, 3.1 miles in preparation for that 13.1 miles, it's not going to hurt you by any means unless you get injured. So if it's close to the actual half marathon, I would definitely back off, not go out too hard. But if it's, months prior, by all means, work on your speed. Another good thing about those training runs training races, is that you're getting used to actually being in a race environment, which can be quite overwhelming if you're not used to it, especially if your first race is a huge one like a Disney race or a rock and roll, or maybe a large one in your area. So, getting used to the racing, being around, having it be more congested with other runners, having water stations, things like that, good thing to get used to before your big race. My next question is, any suggestions on how to not start out too fast? This is funny because when I first started running, I struggled with this. You get in that mindset, you get to the race and you're like, all right, I'm ready. And you just take off. And you have to be very careful. My suggestion is if you have Nike Plus or a Garmin, just keep an eye on that pace at the very beginning. The first little bit you might go fast to try to get out of the crowd a little bit, but then, back it down, especially if it's a longer race. The last thing you want is to burn out towards the end because you're just so tired because you went out too fast. So kind of keep an eye on what a good pace is. You know what's too fast, you know what's okay. So just keep an eye on it, and that'll help you know if you're going out too fast or not. If after the first mile or two you can just tell that you're not going to be able to hold it, back off. Again, that first mile might be a little faster just because of the, some races are just so congested. But just keep an eye on it. Your legs are fresh. That's another thing. You want to go out faster. Back off. You can always go faster at the end. I've seen on your blog about foam rolling. How exactly do you do it? Excellent question. I mean, I didn't know what a foam roller was until my physical therapist said, oh, let's foam roll your IT band. And I screamed in pain as he did it. But a foam roller is just something you can buy at a sporting goods store. We actually had it in our local superstore, Meijer or Walmart. You can find them. And it doesn't have to be a special one. I know that there's some that are like the Trigger Point that are more expensive. By no means do you have to get one like that. Just start out with a basic one. You can always upgrade later. And all you do is you lay on the ground. You put that IT band right on the foam roller and you just roll. You can also do your calves, your quads, your rear end, about any body part you want. If you ever wonder exactly how to do it, go on YouTube. Lots of great videos. I'll try to link some at the bottom of my blog post. Just excellent videos on how to foam roll. And make sure that, it will be slightly painful. Very painful if you have very, very tight muscles. But again, it should be a good pain. It shouldn't be a not good pain. I also have the stick, which is good for my hamstrings and my calves because the foam roller just doesn't quite get those as well as the stick does. When to do it? There's some runners who do it before a run and after a run. I personally just stick to after a run, partially because of time constraints, but also that's when I know they're the tightest. So I usually do it after a run and usually before I stretch. I foam roll and then I stretch. So that's kind of how the foam roller works. Let's see. Looking for a GPS watch. Which one do I get? I have the Garmin 405 and I absolutely adore it, and I don't even use it to its full extent. I need to do some research and start using it to its full extent. But Garmin has a lot of great watches, and you don't need to pay a lot for the one that you get. What I recommend doing is go to the Garmin website and compare. Compare what you want. Do you want a heart rate monitor? Is that important to you? Do you want it just to give you your distance and your time? Do you want it to give pace? Do you want to be able to, link up with other Garmin users? What information do you want it to be able to give you when you hook it up to your computer? Things like that. You get to pick out what's the most important to you, and then you can figure out which one is best for you. I do recommend looking online for cheaper prices. Amazon is great about having good deals on the Garmin's. So make sure you shop around a little bit before you find yours. Nike Plus is a great alternative as well. I don't think it gives you your pace. I'm not 100% positive, but I know it gives you your distance and it's pretty accurate. So if you need a cheaper method for now, that's a great one. There's a Runkeeper app on the iPhone, and you can use that, and it will also track using GPS. A neat thing about that is that anyone, if you make your profile public, anybody can go on and track you as you run. I've used that in races so that Lee can see where I'm at. It's not 100% accurate because my first half marathon, it told me that I finished like 15 minutes before I did. So I don't know if it was just we went under some overpasses, if that made a difference. I'm not sure. But that was kind of a neat thing about that one as well. I have to eat gluten-free. How do I fuel? Excellent question. Because so many runners focus on carb loading before a big race, and when you can't eat gluten, you can't exactly carb load. So what do you do? Personally, you have to find out what works best for you. I read a lot of blogs. I did a lot of research before I started running to figure out what I could eat that was gluten-free. And most of you who are gluten-free know that going gluten-free came from some sort of digestive issue. And I have a very sensitive stomach, and sometimes things just don't set well. So for example, I had to find out what was going to work for me before I ran. And keep in mind, sometimes it's very early in the morning. Since a bagel or toast isn't usually an option for me, note there are gluten-free options out there now. But since it's normally not an option for me, I just started using Luna bars. Then I found out that not all Luna bars are gluten-free. Only the protein ones are, and those ones were just too much for my stomach to handle in the morning. So I found the PureFit bars, and they are wonderful, and they give me the energy I need to go through that long run. So that's what I use. However, that may not work for you. Find what works for you. If you have access to gluten-free bagels and you have a bagel with peanut butter, that might be what works for you. Oatmeal might work for you. I'm not sure, but there are a lot of gluten-free options. During a run, the GU gels are gluten-free. Sport beans are gluten-free. The shot blocks are gluten-free. So, by all means, you can use those. I found out that the gels did a number on my stomach, and I cannot eat them. I have not tried shot blocks yet, but the sport beans work, so I've just stuck with them. You can also do candy, Swedish fish. I've done that before. Actually, I like those after a run. You just have to find what works for you. Also, you need to find out hydration-wise what works for you. Gatorade does not work during a run, works great after. Powerade, I cannot handle before or after a run. Or during, excuse me. Again, finding out what works for you. After a run, I usually have a banana right away. It's the only thing my stomach can really handle. And then after that, it depends on how long of a run it is. It might be a full-on meal. It might not be. But when it comes to the carbo loading, you can still eat rice. You can still eat gluten-free oats. You can, find gluten-free breads or bagels. It's not necessarily that your body needs the carbs in order to do a long run. So you find out what works for you and you go with it. It's very common that Lee and I have pizza On Friday nights, there's a place in town that has gluten-free pizza, and so it's very common that I have pizza on Friday night, and then I have my long run Saturday morning. Works great. Just be careful not to try something new before a race day. So again, long story short, find out what works for you, and it's not that big of a deal not having carbs, if you will, and being gluten-free. So those are just a few of the questions that my readers have asked. Feel free to keep the questions coming. I'll do my best to answer them how I can, and I look forward to more of your questions.